that rapport with
I definitely
that
had
person.
rapport with him. I did.
And so that's something
I wouldn't have done that with someone who was mad at me.
Well, and I would never have taken that approach. Like, my approach to do maybe the same thing would have been to say, to maybe slightly address that argument, say, do you really think that's a stronger argument, or what do you think that goes this way? Maybe address in a different way. I don't think, and it depends on the conversation, how far you got on the bodily rights argument, whether you'd go back to it to solve something that was still you weren't agreeing on.
It was still very open. Like we were unagreed on the bodily rights. We had only begun that kind of discussion, or I mean, we were 5-10 minutes into it, which is not enough usually to have a good bodily rights discussion.
Right.
We're talking about responsibility and parental rights and things like that.
So it makes sense to go back to what's not finished, but to say like, oh, go back to the ultimate argument makes it sound like go back to home base.
Or go back to something that is something that you can use as justification for staying pro-choice.
See, like, to me, I was trying to tell him, look, go back to the best argument that's out there. Like, I kind of like I've been talking to people for 10 years about this. You are making the best argument. I still don't think I disagree with it, and I've spent a lot of time looking at it, but I think it's much stronger than this other argument you're making. Now, we can go there if you want, but I would like if I would recommend, like, you were doing, I thought, really good, and there's so much that we could discuss there, and kind of brought him back. He kind of had the choice to go either way, but he was like, yeah, you're right. Let's stick with bodily rights.
My 1 minute little few sentence thing is not so much about the points I'm making, but one of the feel that I'm getting is that your objective for that conversation was to have a good argument, not to convince him to be pro-life.
Interesting.
And so that's why what I'm saying is that your point of bringing him back to that was to continue the good argument, which is not a problem. But and I'm not saying that's objective.
I would add on to it. I don't think I limit it to just one. My goal, I think, was, in best case scenario, for him to become pro-life, even if he left that plane and heard better arguments. And so it's like, I've got a unique situation where I've got 2.5 hours with this guy where we can actually cover pretty much, we can cover bodily rights and any other questions he has, like rape or what have you. And I want to kind of give it everything I've got, because as soon as he steps off that plane, if he's still interested in this, he will go look it up. He'll find out about bodily rights arguments and theoretically be like, oh, well, we didn't even talk about that. That's a much better argument than what I was making.
Right. I think you should have addressed that. One
so it's
kind
a
of difference.
Goal.
Right. In our conversation, we're focusing a lot on the argument. We're naming the arguments and what they are. And so for some people, that's a style that you take. And if you're talking to another person who thinks objectively like that, that works. But if you're talking to someone, it might be easier to focus on what is it that makes you believe in the right to choose abortion. And if that reason leads you to the argument, address the reasons within the argument.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I mean, when he first said I'm pro-choice, it was like, tell me why you're pro-choice. And he kind of gave, and then he kind of stumbled into bodily rights. But that's where we went. I wanted to kind of be able to finish it. Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't help to name the argument. Oh, well, you mean Judith Jarvis Thompson's violinist argument.
I didn't do that.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah, just to check with it, because to them, it's a gut.
I asked him if he'd heard of Judith Jarvis Thompson.
There you go.
But it's all right. I think like when Trent Horn, like, he gives his speech on bodily rights, and he names like 20 or 25 different authors or philosophers that he studied.
He cites properly.
He cites properly. He cites very well. And I think that brings. Now, I think you can, if you do it the wrong way, you can come off as arrogant or I'm smarter than you and I can name all these people.
Well,
but if you have that,
you
have that humble attitude, though, I think that can actually provide some strength to where you're coming. Clearly, you're not just improvising your way through this. You've really thought about both sides, and I think people, when they hear that you've actually thought about both sides,
right?
They take you more seriously.
Gives you credibility.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Are you out? So do we so where are we at now? Are you still feel like maybe I made the wrong move by kind of keeping him in bodily rights, or are you kind of with me now that was a good thing?
I don't think it's necessarily that there was a right or wrong move for that situation.
Right.
And this is also only going off of what you've told me, is
we didn't see the guy's face when you told him that.
He was enjoying himself. He was very intellectual.
In debate, when someone gets away from something, it's one of two things. Either they've have nothing else to defend that, and so they're trying to escape to an easier argument, which the point where you can do there is either pounce on that and attack them for it, which you would not want to do in a one-on-one setting.
That's not very nice.
Correct. Yeah, you're not gonna. That's gonna make him, not be very keen to continuing. Or you can question that, and you kind of did something fairly unique to be like, oh no, don't go there. Let's come back to it.
Right.
And I don't know. I wouldn't have done that.
Okay.
And because the way I think is, all right, he's moved off that. Let's tap into why. Let's try to get to some emotion, because this is a very emotionally driven issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the biggest thing is when you're in any type of debate, and especially, he's an engineer, he's a numbers type of guy, I'm assuming. You trying to get down to his emotion is not going to be easy. And I see that as a window to get to emotion.
Yeah, see, now I'm starting to disagree with you, because it seems to me...
No, wait a minute. I'm starting to agree with him more.
Okay. Well, maybe it seems to me that no other issue is as emotionally charged as this one. When we have conversations, a lot of times with people, this is very, very emotionally... You don't think abortion is very emotionally charged?
Oh, I thought you meant the...
You're agreeing with me. Okay. It sounded like you're disagreeing.
It is emotionally charged.
This is an emotionally charged issue.
You both agree to that.
I will shut up and let you...
Okay. But a lot of times, I think, at least in my experience, conversations have gone usually better when people are willing to kind of set aside the emotion and really take a look at the strength of the arguments on both sides. And so I don't really, Derek wasn't having an emotionally charged conversation. This has never affected him. He's not married. He's never, gotten anyone pregnant. So this is not something. So yours is kind of like, I'm just interested in, the kind of the moral, arguments with the, on both sides.
Which is good and bad.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that's what Andrew's
So what's the bad
at.
side? I know what's the good side. What's the bad side?
You can win the argument, lose the person.
Interesting. How can I lose the person?
Is kind of the idea.
Because you
because he's not feeling like, wow, this is a really horrible thing, kind of thing.
Well, you know that the when you get into the bodily rights, people have like a gut reaction as to why they believe that.
And it's emotionally driven.
It's emotionally driven, yeah. They have an experience, or they believe, they feel emotionally that might be right. And I think what you may have missed, and it might not have in this conversation, but something I think we're trying to get through is, yes, you do need to remove people when emotion's clouding their vision to that intellectual plane of talking about arguments and these abstract thoughts. But at some point, you have to bring it back to the gut feeling.
I do agree with you. So let me tell you the end of my story.
How did you know
you're actually going to be impressed? No, I do agree now. You explained it better than you.
I was right at the start. Okay.
Okay. Here's the end of the story. We had our discussion until after we had landed in LAX, and we still weren't done discussing bodily rights fully. Now, we did end up getting, like after we had spent more time on it, because we just we hadn't gone through the 3 refutations. 2.5 hours.
Okay. I'm thinking long.
I know. It was a long 2.5 hours. It was great. We both really enjoyed it. I was really tired that flight, but I really enjoyed my time with him. But, we had spent more time, so I felt like I'd been able to give him all the 3 main refutations of bodily rights. But he still was feeling a little, like he was kind of feeling like, okay, he's more comfortable with being pro-life, but he still wasn't 100% there. Right. So at the end of the conversation, he looks at me, he says, well, I want to be logical here. And I'm against murder, and I already agreed today that the unborn's a person.
Right.
So I might have to rethink my position on this. But he wasn't fully pro-life. Yeah. So this is the way it ended. I handed him the Justice for All brochure. I told him, I didn't have time to get into this with you today. It wasn't right time earlier, but I want you to take this. Here's a warning. There are graphic pictures in it. But I want you to take it and look at it, because this is a very, very important issue. This is not just one of those issues where a lot of times it's like people solving the puzzle. When you hear people like me talk about it, you don't want it to go there, and I'm agreeing with you. And so I handed the JFA brochure and my business card and said I would be interested in continuing the dialogue with you further. He left, and that was the end. Does that help?
That does help, because I think in that last step, you kind of brought it back to reality. Yes, you skated around up here in the, moral puzzle zone. Exactly. You took it out of reality to clarify away from that emotion, but you got to bring it back to, this is what's happening. Yeah. Regardless of all the stuff you're looking at, this is what happens in an abortion, and do you support that?
I have a question.
Yes.
And this is a rhetorical question, and I don't think it is a right or wrong. Should you both have enjoyed that conversation? You said you both left and enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it in the sense that I felt like we had gotten a lot accomplished.
No,
We had moved
okay.
through
That's
everything.
fine.
I did enjoy it in the fact like that was better than ice cream. You know, it wasn't like. But I agree with you.
There's
Like
not
we're
much
talking
better
about
than
Depends on the ice
we're
cream.
talking about a horrific issue. I'm
Yeah.
completely with you. But just after having had so many like conversations that don't go very well with pro-choice people, like anytime I get a conversation that goes an hour or more, like there's a part of me that really enjoys that because I get to see them respond. I get to watch them get to know me and see that I'm not a total jerk like a lot of people
Right.
assume pro-life, especially guys, are.
That's debatable.
And it feels like personally, you know,
Right.
you might feel that, but at least Derek didn't think I was a jerk. So talk to him.
You made
And
progress. You made a relationship.
I really enjoy that. I
Yeah.
really do enjoy because I feel like I'm accomplishing something more than I feel, after sending a tweet or writing an article that I've just seen. Like I feel like I'm making a difference when So it's a good question though. But
No,
yeah,
that-
what do
that
you guys
is-
think? What do you? I mean,
It's good that you can walk away from a long conversation like that. That I have a more competitive edge and
I
the
do know
more
that.
argument edge. And
I
so
do know that.
oftentimes if I spend hours being as gentle and back as possible, trying to restrain myself from my natural tendency, and I spend hours doing that, and
Yeah.
they walk away, and I don't feel like I've made significant enough
Yeah.
progress, I feel like a little depressed. Like
Yeah.
I feel down.
Yeah.
So it's really good that you can come away from a conversation where you haven't completely done the 180 and feel like you did make enough progress.
But even to that, you came. My question is about if he's enjoying it. Did you like shake him to his core enough to realize I've been supporting this?
I felt like he came 90% to the pro-life end. Real quick, a question from one of our live listeners is, have I had follow contact with the engineer? I'm sorry to say no. I'm really bummed out that he hasn't sent me any emails. I told Joseph Ferrell to keep an eye out for his comment card if he sent one in. I will add, just real quick, I posted on the Justice for All, they have a private blog for their trainers, and I posted this question as a topic for them to discuss. I thought there's one thing I just wanted to highlight. Matt McKinley, who's one of their top trainers, I thought this was really good. He said, for me, it would depend on three things, whether I would do what you did. The person would need to be philosophically minded, very logical,
Right.
or
Which
else it's a
it
bad
sounds
idea.
like he was, which I agree with.
And
Good.
Number two, the conversation. You need to have already built up good rapport.
yes.
Which I had. We were
Again, I
enjoying
agree.
each other. And three, time. You both need to have enough time to work through the arguments, because otherwise, like if you're on a college campus, and a lot of times we talk to people for a couple of minutes and then they walk off. So I don't want to be like, oh, let me help you make a great pro-choice argument, and then they're like, oh, I got to go into class, and I'm like, oh, I've helped them become
You've
more pro-choice.
weaponized
That's
them.
bad.
So
but
I agree.
yeah.
Then I'm not,
Good.
I think that was a good use of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we've come to a good spot.
We've
on
come
that.
to an agreement. Okay, so when you talk
For
to
now.
I conclude with this. When you talk to pro-choice people, whether you help them make a better argument or not, it's important to use the ambassador skills.
Yes.
Because you want them to still leave with a good impression and wanting to consider the issue further.
Yes.
So with that, thank you for listening. Come back in next week for a topic on how pro-lifers should use Facebook. It's going to be good.
You've been watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.